Madam President, I've listened to the statements made by the Republican leadership this morning on the floor of the United States Senate. If one has a sense of history and a memory, their statements are preposterous. The last speaker came before us and said, the Democrats are even threatening to end the filibuster in retribution. Well, let's stop and think for a moment. Was there a filibuster affecting Supreme Court nominees? Was there a requirement of 60-vote margins if there's controversy associated with filling a vacancy on the Supreme Court? There was until one senator from Kentucky, Senator Mitch McConnell, eliminated the filibuster when it came to the Supreme Court. So this so-called democratic institution of the filibuster was eliminated when it came to Supreme Court nominees by that same Senator McConnell who comes to the floor and says, the Democrats have reached an outrageous position. They are threatening the future of the filibuster. He eliminated it. He made that decision. When there were changes made in the filibuster on other court appointments, Senator Reid was careful not to include the Supreme Court, but Senator McConnell did. Senator McConnell has brought us to this moment. Think how different it would be today if the nominee of this president was subject to a filibuster. If it took 60 votes, it means the person nominated would have to be moderate in their approach. We don't expect that from this president in filling the vacancy of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I also read and reread one simple fact when it came to Ruth Bader Ginsburg in 1993. She cleared the Senate chamber at a time when the filibuster rule did apply with a vote of 96-3. 96-3. Understand that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a well-known person when she came before this body for approval to the Supreme Court. She had been an outspoken advocate for women's rights and equality as an attorney and advocate for groups like the American Civil Liberties Union. She had served on the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. As well known as she was for her political beliefs, she cleared this Senate chamber with only 3 dissenting votes: Senator Jesse Helms, Senator Don Nichols, and Senator Bob Smith, 3 Republicans. What a different time it was, that even though her stripes were clear, she was so well respected as a jurist and a person of integrity that she was approved by the Senate chamber. How far we have fallen. We are now in a position now at this moment when Senator McConnell 4 years ago established a standard. The vacancy of Anton Scalia's seat on the Supreme Court led President Obama to nominate Merrick Garland, a well-respected judge from the D.C. Circuit. I remember seeing him and meeting with him after he had been proposed by President Obama. And it was a sad duty to watch him as he walked the halls of the Senate, because you see, Senator McConnell announced that he didn't want any Republican senators to physically meet with Merrick Garland, not to give him the recognition of even a meeting in their office, let alone a hearing. The argument that Senator McConnell made, and as Senator Schumer said this morning, was that it wasn't President Obama's place to fill that vacancy. It was the place of the next president of the United States. Senator McConnell basically declared President Obama was a lame duck when it came to Supreme Court vacancies in his last year in office, and that the next president, whoever that might be, would make the choice. Well, one after another, the Republican senators marched in line behind that McConnell position, announcing that they too agreed that President Obama was a lame duck when it came to filling Supreme Court vacancies in his last year in office. They didn't cite the Constitution because there's no provision in the Constitution that even comes close to that suggestion. There certainly wasn't any law, and there wasn't any precedent. I hear the Republicans come to the floor mentioning Joe Biden's name and Chuck Schumer's name and who knows who will be next on their list. But the fact is, Senate makes these decisions based on the majority. And at that point, Senator McConnell had the majority, and he lined up his membership behind him. Unfortunately, they're lining up again. But this time, Senator McConnell's position is the exact opposite. This time he's arguing that because there's a Republican president, he should fill this vacancy instantly. Get it done, let's go. And his Republican senators who took the opposite position 4 years ago are finding some rationalization to follow him again. What's at stake in this, of course, is not just the Senate, the comity of the Senate, the respect we have for one another, the respect we have for traditions one way or the other, that they be followed regardless of the president's party. What's at stake, unfortunately, is also the Supreme Court. This institution, this third branch of government, is part of a strategy that Senator McConnell has been pushing forward for years now. It is the intent of the Republicans in the Senate, through Senator McConnell, to take control of the third branch of government, the judicial branch. They are desperate to do it. Time is not on their side. The demographics of America cannot be held back simply by voter suppression. They have to count on jurists from every level of the federal judiciary to adhere to their minority point of view on so many important issues. And ironically, one of those issues is the role of women, the equality of women in America. Ruth Bader Ginsburg argued for that her whole life. She was smart enough to know that she was taking her argument to a lot of male judges, so she argued for equality for men as well as women during the course of her career on and off the bench. She was principled, determined, and successful. As an attorney, she argued and won multiple cases, Supreme Court, in the 1970s, eventually persuading the all-male court to apply the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause to sex-based discrimination. Sadly, we can predict with almost 100% certitude that if Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell choose her successor, that principle will be under fire. In fact, it may not even survive. So for all the kind speeches about this principled woman and what she gave to America, and they are well-deserved by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, watch the nominee that comes from the Trump White House, and you'll find, I'm afraid, they're not even close to the standard that she argued for and succeeded. We are 6 weeks today from Election Day, 7 weeks from the Supreme Court taking up another case, one which I think is relevant and important to every single American. The question the court will decide is whether the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, will survive. President Trump and Majority Leader McConnell want to rush this Supreme Court nominee through the Senate before these two dates arrive. Do you recall not that many years ago when the Republicans controlled the House of Representatives and voted, I believe, 50 different times to eliminate the Affordable Care Act? Were it not for a Democratic Senate, they might have achieved their goal. And each and every time they were asked, what would you replace it with? What would you say to the 20 million Americans who depend on the Affordable Care Act for their source of health insurance? And what would you say to the rest of America that depends on the Affordable Care Act for fundamental protections in health insurance? Protections such as no discrimination based on pre-existing conditions. The Americans understand that. Virtually every family has a story to tell of someone in their own family with an illness that could be considered a pre-existing condition. The insurance industry even went so far at one point as to say being a woman was a pre-existing condition. And based on that, the health insurance industry would either charge higher premiums or refuse coverage. We got rid of those days. We ended that with the Affordable Care Act. We ended it with Obamacare. And now the Republicans, again, want the insurance industry to have that power over your life. 6 million Americans, as of this morning, have been reported as diagnosed with COVID-19. Trust me, the insurance industry would make that a pre-existing condition for them and for any others in the future who should turn up positive on these COVID-19 tests. And so what the Republicans are seeking to do in the Supreme Court is what they failed to do on the floor of the Senate. They tried on the Senate floor many times, and the last time is well remembered, to end the Affordable Care Act. And those of us who were here that night watched as a handful, perhaps 3, Republican senators said no. And we all remember that moment after he'd been on the phone with President Trump, when John McCain, the late senator from Arizona, came through those doors at 2:30 in the morning and cast his no vote in the well of the Senate chamber. I was there just a few feet away and watched every second of it. It was gripping. It was exciting. For many people, it was giving them another chance to protect themselves with health insurance, something which the other Republicans were determined to eliminate. John McCain said then, and we say now, if you have a better idea on the Republican side, President Trump, if you have a better idea than the Affordable Care Act, let's see it. How many times has this president made an empty promise that we have a substitute, I'll give it to you in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? They don't have one. Recently, in a hearing before the Appropriations Subcommittee, I asked 3 leading health experts and doctors in the Trump administration if any of them had worked on this so-called Republican substitute. Not a one. It doesn't exist. It is just an empty answer and an imperfect answer, at best, from this administration. I remember on February 13th, 2016, when Justice Scalia had just passed away in a presidential election year, when Senator McConnell said, to the surprise of many of us, the following: the American people should have a voice in the selection of their next Supreme Court justice. Therefore, this vacancy, the Scalia vacancy, should not be filled until we have a new president. He stated the McConnell rule, February of 2016, an election year. Here it is. The American people should have a voice in the selection of their next Supreme Court justice. Therefore, this vacancy should not be filled until we have a new president. Pretty clear, isn't it? Well, the Republican senators all lined up behind him in this new statement of principle and denied Merrick Garland not only a hearing, but even the courtesy of an office appointment for most of them. The McConnell rule is clear and unambiguous, and in 2016, Republicans dutifully fell in line behind it. They said the American people should have the last word. An election year Supreme Court vacancy should be filled in the next presidential term. Senator McConnell claims that his rule really had an asterisk at the end. I don't see one. He said it depends really on which party controls the Senate. Well, that's certainly a distinction without a difference. Why should the composition of the Senate dictate whether or not the American people, quote, should have a voice in the selection of their next Supreme Court justice? Either the American people have a voice regarding the future of the court when there's a vacancy in election year, or they don't. 4 years ago, Senator McConnell said they do. Now he says they don't. It's a flip-flop. And oh, the painful contortions I see among most Republican senators trying to rationalize posing for holy pictures 4 years ago, saying the American people should have the last word, and then 4 years later completely reversing themselves. But they do. This is not just some Washington debate. The stakes in this debate are important for every American. It isn't about who gets the last word on MSNBC or Fox. It's about who gets the last word when you learn that someone in your family has a devastating illness and you're praying to God you have a health insurance plan that'll cover it. President Trump has made clear he wants to strike down the entire Affordable Care Act, even without a substitute. That's the position the Trump administration took before the Supreme Court in a case that will be argued just days after this November 3rd election. President Trump has also made it clear that when he picks a new Supreme Court justice, he wants him to agree with him when it comes to eliminating the Affordable Care Act. So I would say to people across America, be prepared. If Mitch McConnell gets his way, if Donald Trump gets his way, if they install a new Supreme Court justice who's taken this oath, this political oath to follow the Trump plan, all of America will be at risk because the protections of the Affordable Care Act will be eliminated by that Supreme Court. In 2015, Donald Trump tweeted, as he often does, and I quote, "If I win the presidency, my judicial appointments will do the right thing, unlike Bush's appointee, John Roberts, on Obamacare." Well, we certainly know what that means, because at least on one occasion, John Roberts has kept Obamacare alive. Let's be clear, the Affordable Care Act is hanging in the balance in just a few days. The health care coverage and protections for pre-existing conditions that millions of American families rely on are at risk. Republicans were never able to repeal the Affordable Care Act in the House or on the floor of the Senate. Thank you, John McCain. So they want to do it in the court. They're trying to accomplish in the Supreme Court what they cannot accomplish in Congress. If President Trump and Senator McConnell go through with their plan to jam through a Supreme Court nominee this year, the Affordable Care Act is doomed. And did you hear last night when the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee announced, and I saw it this morning on television, he announced every single Republican senator on the Senate Judiciary Committee is going to vote for the Trump nominee for the Supreme Court. We don't have a nominee yet, do we? The president said he won't announce one until Saturday of this week. And here is this announcement by the Republican chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. He's counted the votes. It's a done deal. What does it tell you? It tells you it doesn't make any difference who the president nominates. The silence of the lambs in the United States Senate. If President Trump and Senator McConnell go through with this plan, America will feel it and every family will know it. That is why my Republican colleagues refuse to give the American people the last word on November 3rd. They are so uncertain of the re-election of Donald Trump, they have to do this now, quickly. They're afraid he won't be renominated, that he won't be reelected, and that he won't be in a position to fill this vacancy next year. And so they're breaking their own promise to the American people to respect their judgment in the selection of a Supreme Court nominee. We know what's at stake as well in terms of this nation. 200,000 Americans. That number is likely to be confirmed in just a matter of hours, if not days. 200,000 Americans have died of COVID-19. You say to yourself, well, it's a global pandemic. People are dying everywhere. It's true. But the rate of death in America, sadly, leads the world. It is not an indication of American greatness that the infection rate from COVID-19 in the United States of America is 5 times what it is in Germany. It is not an indication of American greatness when the infection rate in the United States is twice what it is in Canada. It is not a reflection of the greatness of America that with 4.5% of the global population, we have 20% of the people who've died from this pandemic. This president and this administration have utterly failed when it comes to this public health crisis, one of the most challenging in a century. For the 6 million people who've been infected with this COVID virus in America, we pray that they will recover fully, but we know in many cases they will not. We know that without protection in the Affordable Care Act, many insurers will refuse to issue policies to these people in the future if the Republicans have their way and eliminate the Affordable Care Act. Amy from Huntley, Illinois, recently wrote me and said, please save the ACA, Affordable Care Act. Without it, caps will come back, and with them, my children's mental health coverage will essentially disappear. She goes on to write, I have 3 children, each with varying mental health disabilities. Before the Affordable Care Act, our Blue Cross Blue Shield plan had a maximum family lifetime cap of 100 mental health care visits. Lifetime cap, 100 visits. That's it, she says. When the ACA was passed, it was like a tremendous weight had been taken off of our family. Young adults, incidentally, up to the age of 26, are protected by family health insurance under the Affordable Care Act. If the Trump administration, Mitch McConnell, and the new Supreme Court nominee have their way, that will end. Insurance plans would no longer have to cover prescription drugs, maternity care, mental health, or addiction treatment. Still facing the opioid crisis, eliminating the Affordable Care Act would eliminate the guarantee that your son, your daughter, someone in your family who's facing the addiction of this terrible drug would have coverage when it comes to addiction treatment. Misty from Gurnee, Illinois, wrote me and said, "In a time where my husband is unemployed and I've been quarantined, losing our health care now would be absolutely devastating for my family." She says, my husband and I are both on daily prescription meds, and we have 2 daughters who desperately need health care coverage as well. I'm asking you to protect the Affordable Care Act. Misty, I'm going to protect the Affordable Care Act by opposing the Supreme Court nominee of President Trump, because he's promised us that that nominee will eliminate the Affordable Care Act. I could not, in good conscience, support such a nominee. Medicare would face insolvency sooner, at least 1 year sooner, and seniors would be charged more for prescription drugs when the Affordable Care Act goes away, as the Republicans are seeking to achieve in court and now on the floor of the Senate. Hospitals in Illinois, especially downstate and inner city hospitals, would see significant revenue losses from the elimination of Medicaid expansion. Madam President, this is the real world, and the people who are writing my office are doing so of their own volition to let me know what they face. This isn't just a matter of big shots in Washington fighting with one another to see who can get more camera time. It isn't a question of who's going to appear more on the cable TV shows. It's a question of whether or not we care about the families we represent. Most families, my own included, have been through this. I know the sleepless nights when you worry as to whether or not you have the health insurance. I know what it means to be the father of a new baby with serious medical conditions and have no health insurance at all. I faced it, and I'll never forget it. And I'll never forget the families who sent me to Washington to remember them as well. This is about more than who gets bragging rights politically at the end of the day. It is about the right of every American family to have peace of mind of quality, affordable, accessible health insurance coverage. Madam President, I yield the floor, suggest the absence of quorum.